3, 2, 1. Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight I decided to have a little bit of fun. See if doing a full secondary build on my American battleships could at least make it laughable if nothing else. And we may have had some surprising results. Or not so surprising results. But either way, let's get into the details. By the way, this is going to be a double feature video. We're going to have both the Iowa and the Alabama in this because they're identical in their secondaries. Anyway, let's go straight to the build. First of all, we've got Willis Lee as our commander. He is the tank build commander for the Americans. We are using Von Hipper as our inspiration. We are running Not One for the Nuisance, Porcupine, Firefighter, and Master Mechanic, as well as Will to Rebuild. Now, I don't choose this because if I'm going to go with this build, I would rather have 2 extra heals than have the extra time on my secondaries. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that this is a viable build. Alright? I'm not saying that at all. All I'm doing is having a little bit of fun, and I thought it'd be interesting to check it out. I can endure the pain so that you don't have to. So, now that we've got that out of the way, let's get to the equipment. The only thing it changes is we put the secondary secondary battery mod 2 on the front. You can swap this out for main battery mod 2 if you want. But if you're going with secondaries, you kind of need this. It is the only thing that kind of makes them further out. Anyway. So, our loadout, as always, we're running the 70th, or the VE Day camo. So, that's a thing. And then the community contributor, as well as we are running the enhanced secondary targeting consumable. This gives us, our hit points take a hit because we're no longer using Hyde and Sims as our commanders and inspiration. So, we take a hit on hit points, but other than that, our survivability goes up. As you can see, we've got a 53% chance, or 53% torpedo damage reduction, which is almost the same as the stock Yamato at this point. But our guns only have a range of 17.7. It would be less than that if you took the Brawler perk, which is why I didn't take the Brawler perk. But 17.7 kilometers is still usable. Reload time is 30 seconds, so not horrible. But you get 7.6 kilometer firing range on your secondaries. Unfortunately, you only get 20 secondaries. It's essentially a Fletcher off either side of your ship. Okay? Actually, it might be 2 Fletchers off either side of your ship, because I think the Fletcher only gets 5 guns, right? Am I wrong? Anyway, they're 5-inch guns. They reload every 6 seconds, which is ridiculous, considering they should be able to reload much faster than that. They're only 5-inch guns. But they are dual turrets, so that might be part of the reason. But, like I said, they reach out to 7.6 kilometers with this build. So that's what we were kind of going for. As you can see, because we do not have the one perk that slows us down with the dispersion build, we're up to 28.3 knots on the maximum speed. And, of course, our concealment doesn't change, I don't believe. Same thing for the Iowa. There's really no difference as far as that goes. The build for the Iowa is exactly the same. And then the stats, I believe, are pretty much the same. Right at 70,000 because we lose, what, 6,000 some odd hit points from not having Sims and Hyde. Our torpedo damage reduction goes up to 31% with the tank build, though, which is nice, instead of the 25 that you get with the dispersion build. So it does help a little bit if you're taking torpedoes, but always best to not be taking torpedoes. Our firing range is 18.2 kilometers, which is, again, perfectly fine. You don't need like 21 kilometer firing range all the time. It's nice to have because sometimes you do need it, but you don't always need it. But 7.6 kilometers, reload every 6 seconds on the secondaries. Maneuverability, you can see we're back up to 30.9 knots because we have not had the nerf to our speed due to the commander trait. But with all of that being said, let's get to the gameplay. Alright, so we are going to be in the Iowa first. And again, this is just a test. I do not think that this is a good, viable strategy for an American battleship. And I'll go over those reasons right now. And one is the range, okay? Unlike the Germans, who get ridiculous range on their secondaries, American battleships don't. The best that you can hope for is the 7.6 that we have. I believe you could possibly get that to 7.9 for the Japanese... Oops, sorry. I had a hiccup. For the Japanese Amagi and Yamato. But I might test them later. But for now, for the Americans, here is why I do not like tank builds for my American commanders. And it is straightforward and simple. You give up the one thing that the American battleships are best at. And that's never a good thing. Whatever your country's specialty is, you don't want to lose that. Because it's the one advantage that you have in a battle. And for the Americans, as this Iowa that just shot at me from behind the mountain to my left is about to demonstrate, it's accuracy. Accuracy and angle of penetration on the armor piercing is what the Americans are the best at in this game. Okay, and then of course for light cruisers it's rate of fire and so on and so forth. But for American battleships, it's accuracy and it's armor piercing. Okay, you have ridiculous armor piercing and you have the best accuracy of all of the battleships in the game. Nobody can argue it. It is a fact. So what you give up is that accuracy, going with the tank build. Now, you do get some advantages, and I've already discussed some of those advantages, like the 5 heals. But here's why I don't really care about the 5 heals on an American battleship. The 5 heals, you don't use it all the time. You just don't. A lot of times, you get killed too quickly to even utilize half of that. So is it really worth getting the extra 2 heals when most of the time the games are ended when you use 3 or less? Not really. And then the secondaries, as you'll see in a moment, the secondaries on an American battleship are pretty good. 127 millimeters. The Iowa, the Alabama both have a lot of them, at 20 of them. But they don't fire very fast. They are accurate, but they just don't fire that fast. The 5-inch guns on the American battleships fire as fast as the smallest guns, or no, I'm sorry, as the biggest guns of the Germans, as this Bismarck is showcasing, with his volume of secondaries. Now, currently, he's not in range for my secondaries, but he's going to close the distance, I'm sure. But, as you've seen already, like, our accuracy has not been very good in this match. And, of course, we see the torpedoes. We knew they were coming. It's been obvious from the get-go that torps were on their way, and I could have probably avoided this first torpedo, but it was kind of a late thing. I was hoping I could get reversed. But we take 2 torpedoes, which is definitely not preferable. We took them both in the bow, so that second torpedo suffered from some damage saturation. You can only do so much damage to the front of the ship, and it's already saturated. So we don't have to worry about torpedoes from the front anymore. But we are all alone. There's an Alaska behind me, and there is a Udachi that was next to me, but the Udachi in this match is useless. And I'm not hating on them or whatever. Some people are just not good at the game. It sounds really bad when I say I'm not hating on him. He's just bad at the game. Well, in this particular instance, he was. But as you can see, I have gotten all of my health just taken off of me, mostly from the destroyer and the Iowa that I'm backing right out in front of. But the reason I decided to go for the Iowa in this instance is because he's broadside to me. Unfortunately, he's paying attention, he's going to get himself angled, and we're not going to get as much damage off of him as we would have liked. But we're not going to stick around and wait for him to shoot us back. We're going to go ahead, get this thing moving forwards, and start engaging, because we knew the torpedoes are on the way. We've got 2 destroyers spotted off the right side of our ship. Our secondaries are firing, and we are going to try to engage. Now, we don't have a lot of hit points left, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is like worst case scenario for any ship. You have no help. You are literally the only thing anybody's shooting at. All you can do is hope to try to survive long enough, dodge as many torpedoes as you can, and make an impact before this is over. First shot at the Mogami didn't go so well. Now you can see clearly I don't have the rear gun in position because we just shot at the Iowa. Our secondaries are doing work against the destroyers, but I'm not worried about the destroyers. They already launched their torpedoes. It's time for me to try to hit this Mogami. Get rid of one ship before I die. That's the goal here. And he just absolutely gets nailed. 2 citadels, all of his health except just enough for him to get away, because that's how that works. And I knew he was launching torpedoes. I knew they were on their way. I hurry up, I rotate, get the rear guns on him, and we go down, finished off by the Leifan attack. Now, we did 71,000 damage, and we royally messed up the enemy on this side of the map. We end up going to win that match. Our team ends up holding on to win. But that was just a showcase of what you can expect from secondaries on the American battleships. They're good, but at the same time, they don't fire that fast. You don't have a lot of them. I mean, 20 secondaries ain't bad, but considering most other battleships have a lot more than 20, you can see why I say they're not that useful. And then, like I said, the tank build is viable, but at what cost? And this one is going to show you a little bit more of the tankiness, but it's also going to come down to just me being a smart player, and instead of throwing myself in there like I did in the last match to see what it was capable of, we're going to play a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? There's a word, it's a thing, and I can't think of it. Direct? It's not... What is the word I'm thinking of? Oh my god, that's going to drive me nuts. But anyway, we're going to play a lot more decisive. We're going to know what we want to do, what we need to do, and we're going to take the advantages that the enemy gives us, and we're going to play it more like a normal match. And you'll see that it is a viable solution to have 5 heals, but again, you're going to see just with normal gameplay that you're just not going to get that much out of a tank build very often. For the American battleships, compared to what you get with a dispersion build American battleship, where you're able to hit people for all the damage. Even though we did with the Mogami in the last one, you'll see in this one, we're going to have quite a few salvos here where we could have just absolutely annihilated them, and we get a lot of misses from even medium range, like short to medium range. We're going to have a lot of misses, and that's solely just due to the fact that we're running a tank build rather than a dispersion build. And so that's what I want to kind of showcase, the trade-off. This map, or this match in particular, had the workings of what could have been an absolute manhandling. Okay, and it's still going to be a good game, don't get me wrong. This is still going to be an absolute fun game. It's my favorite map. We've got a lot of battleships out there. There's only one destroyer, and the destroyer is spotted all the way on the left side of the map. So I don't have to worry about that. Now, the Kuchazov is starting to fire at us, even though our entire team's out in front of him. But hopefully they'll rectify that pretty soon. And the Colorado comes around the corner, just begging for him. And this is where I say, we have opportunities in this match to decimate people, and it just doesn't quite happen. We get some very good damage. 19,000 damage, 22,000 damage so far in this match, 19,000 of which just came from that Colorado. But if that was a dispersion build, probably would have citadeled him, probably would have got a lot more than 22,000, probably would have been more on the 30 to 40,000 damage in that salvo. And that's just from my experience in the American battleships. Like that, you get broadside ships like that, 30,000 damage is nothing unusual, and that's without citadel. You get more, if you get citadels, you can just outright delete people. But even without citadels, you're looking at just finishing, you're still hitting for 30,000 damage. Ask Mr. The developer team. God, who's it? Sailing Robin. Sailing Robin, I ran into him one time during a live stream. Didn't know that he was, there until after the fact. But I hit his turrets for 30,000 damage with no citadels in that live stream. And he visibly reacted to it, or he definitely reacted to it in the live stream for Wargaming if you go back and watch that. But anyway, But that's just showcasing, like, even without citadels, 30,000 damage on a broadside battleship is pretty regular occurrence for these American battleships, which is why I love them so much. They're so consistent. And taking away that consistency is just kind of not my preferable playstyle, but it also doesn't really net you a whole lot in the grand scheme of things. Because 90% of the time, you're never going to need a tank build in an American battleship. They're tanky enough as is, and as long as you're not just throwing yourself into a nightmare scenario like I did in the last one, you're not going to need 5 heals. 3 heals is plenty. I, more often than not, end up not even using all 3 heals in my American battleships. But anyway, we're going to rush this shot a little bit. Again, look at these broadside targets. And this is what happens to me every time I get into a tank build. Every time. I've done this before, by the way. But every time I've gotten into a tank build, this is the kind of game that ends up, like, everybody giving me the broadside of their ship to shoot. And I just can't capitalize. And that is why I cannot say, yes, do a tank build. You shouldn't on American battleships. On German battleships, absolutely viable. The secondaries are fantastic now, and the fact that your guns, with hide at least, aren't completely useless. So, for once, I can say that a German battleship can and should, most likely, be using some sort of a tank build. If you don't have hide, it's up to you. If you want a dispersion build, or the secondaries, personally with the new secondaries, I would highly recommend using them because they are very good. With setting fires and just doing damage flat out. I got hit by a Bismarck secondaries in my Iowa pretty good. Like, the secondaries are good now. But, again, with the American battleships, they're just too short a range to really capitalize on. So I don't recommend just going all out into secondaries like I have here. But finding some sort of common ground, and I tried to do as much common ground as I could without sacrificing everything to go for this. And you can see we're still managing to do quite a bit. Now here I asked my Gneisenau that was next to me to stay with me, and he goes all the way around the outside of the island to do nothing. Like, there's 2 Gneisenau's over there, 2 cruisers over there, and they've already finished off the Bismarck. And now that dispersion was horizontal, and we get a citadel. But you can see, if that was a dispersion build, that would have likely been very much worse than that. If not, just absolute deletion. But, again, in the moment, this is what we're dealing with. We're still not doing bad. We're up to 61,000 damage. There's plenty of damage left out there. We just got to take it. And I'm trying to hold off because I don't want to give my broadside to anybody. I know the Jean Bart's straight out ahead of me. He's bow tanking me because he doesn't respect anybody on the other side. There are 4 ships out next to that guy that should be shooting that Jean Bart right now. 4 ships. 2 battleships, both have torpedoes, and 2 cruisers, and the Jean Bart is going to survive a really long time. Just solely based on the fact that the battleships just don't do anything. Those 2 Gneisenau's were useless in this match. Now, we get a good, absolute, just destroying his main battery there, right off the bat on the Odin. He's firing HE at us, so I'm not particularly worried about him. The 2 Colorados scare me. I don't want to go broadside to 2 Colorados, because as I've seen, or as I've shown on my channel, Colorado's 45 caliber 16-inch guns, which are the exact same on this ship that I am currently using, are more than capable of removing broadside battleships from the match. Alright, so you don't want to sleep on a Colorado, and so you can see I'm having to angle against everybody at the moment. Right now, Odin has decided he wants to come in and torp me. I don't know why he thought he was ever going to get close enough to torp me, but, you know, to each their own. He does make an effort. I will give him credit where credit is due. He is going to make an effort to come at me. Luckily, we already destroyed one of his main guns, so he isn't able to just absolutely obliterate us there. He did switch to AP. That could have been bad, but it wasn't. And we focus his superstructure because it's a German battleship, and much like the Americans, way too much hit points allocated to their superstructure. So we're able to finish him off there. Get a very good dispersion on that shot too. So you gotta love it. Now that's when I start looking back at the Jean Bart. The Jean Bart has lost half his hit points, most of it due to the one cruiser that's shooting him, and the two battleships. Like I said, they've literally done nothing. You'll see later on when we get to the results. But the one cruiser that's over there is firing at him, and you can see I kind of give up firing at him because I'm having such a hard time hitting him, and Jean Barts are hard enough to do damage to anyway. But then I'm going to kind of make a mistake. I did shoot at him, and now I'm neglecting shooting at him and trying to shoot at the Colorado, and I've gotten everybody's attention, and you can see I try to turn away here. We negate most of the damage, a couple overpins on the superstructure, but now we are broadside to a Jean Bart, and that's never a good situation. We get lucky again that he hits the bow of the ship and overpins, but yeah, definitely not where you want to find yourself right now. Even in a tank build, you don't want to be giving broadside to 3 battleships. Okay? Especially 2 Colorados and a Jean Bart. But as we continue to try to get shots into his superstructure and potentially hitting his guns, the cruiser sets him on fire again, and so I'm going to turn away and start focusing the 2 Colorados. And this is just, it's one of those moments where you're just like, okay, he's almost gone. He's going to die. He's going to burn. It's just a matter of time before he gets lit on fire again. As you can see, he damage conned. And now that I know that he's going to die, we've got a battleship pushing. One of the Gneisenau's went all the way back around that island to come in the front of the thing. I don't understand it. Now, we take another hit from the Colorados. We're going to try to push towards them. Colorado number 1 has lost all of his hit points to the cruiser out there, setting him on fire. I believe it's ashores, so we don't have to shoot at him, so I don't. I hold my fire in case we're able to shoot at the final Colorado. And as you can see, I'm going to just sail straight out of the cap. I want to go after this Colorado. 99,000 damage isn't enough for me, even though we were at the front the entire time. We took a beating. We only used, how many heals, guys? 3. And like I said, that is solely just by playing like you would normally play. The only time that you use all 5 heals is when you're in a match like that you've either thrown yourself into a mess, or you have put yourself, or you just happen to be in a game where everybody is in a fire starter. That happens occasionally. Been there, done that, trust me. But otherwise, you're not going to utilize 5 heals all the time. Now, that being said, I'm still not giving up my 2 extra heals for the consumable duration perk that's there. That's just not worth it. I don't care who you are. There's no argument to be made there. Increasing the length of the time that secondary consumable is used is just not worth the loss of 2 full heals. Like, that's dumb. I don't think anybody thinks that that's a good idea. Maybe I'm wrong, but in this instance, the tank build kind of hurt us in this match. We could have had an absolutely outstanding match, probably had 150, maybe even 170,000 damage in this match because of all the broadsides everybody was giving us if we'd have had a dispersion build. So, again, I do this so that you don't have to. The game is about to end. We're trying to close the distance to get one last shot off at the Colorado before this game's over. Of course he knocks out my gun. So we're going to have to fix that real quick, try to get the guns back, because, again, we've got 3 people capturing the enemy base. They haven't done a whole lot other than the cruiser. The cruiser did his job, but everybody else that's in that base right now didn't do anything, so of course they're going to be the ones to cap the base. I don't mind the cruiser doing it, but the 2 battleships, grow a pair, get out there and do something. Anyway. Especially when you're in a Gneisenau, for God's sakes. The thing's got ridiculous armor, good torpedoes. I don't know why they spent the entire game not doing anything. But watch this shot. Yeah. 2 hits at 6 kilometers on the broadside of a Colorado. And that is exactly why I refuse to play tank builds on American battleships. If I had a dispersion build, that Colorado is dead. Period. End of story. But we still had a pretty good game. We ended up with 1776 right there. What you think about that experience? 1776. USA. That's all I'm saying. But Atago shows that he was actually doing something. Shores was the guy that was on the far side of the map. Both of those guys were actually working, but the two guys knows bottom of the leaderboard. You gotta love them. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed. This was a nice test. I hope you guys aren't too mad at me. And if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.